How was your trip to Ikea?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed that you brought that up, Keith. You've really blindsided me with that one. My sister is obsessed with Ikea, and she's got 2 children, so she never gets to go out without children. We were queuing at the doors before it opened, straight into the cafe for coffee, and as much as I don't like the furniture, no, I like the designs. That's what I enjoy. They set everything up nicely. In fact, I even took a picture of something and sent it to you.
Yeah.
Because the designs are good. The build is not. And actually, I think maybe I'm just getting old and I haven't really noticed with inflation, but I didn't even think Ikea was cheap. I looked at the price and thought, that's a lot of money for something that's not very good. In fact, I looked at a couple of things like storage cabinets for the workshop, and they look really nice, and then you just kind of give them a little wobble and go, no, this is rubbish.
Yeah.
For the price, I could build it. I mean, for the average person, that makes no sense because they don't have a workshop full of thousands of pounds worth of tools. So saying you can buy the wood for the same price is irrelevant. But yeah, Ikea feels no need I have.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it, how many people want to actually buy furniture that can't be moved around that much without developing wobbles. It amazes me, and I often watch vlogs and things on YouTube of people with money, with a decent amount of money, and they're shopping in Ikea and buying furniture that fulfills a temporary need, doesn't it? It's furniture that you buy for a few years, and yeah, it's relatively inexpensive, but it's almost incredibly wasteful. That's the way I see it, because it's just constantly going to landfill. And I know Ikea have developed a lot of methods to be less wasteful, which I praise them for in a way, but it doesn't really help overall, does it?
I guess if you want something, if you've only got a certain amount of money and you want something that's stylish, because you'd be better off going to like the British Heart Foundation furniture stores and getting a solid bit of furniture for the same money, but it might be a 1990s pine bit of furniture.
It's just not on trend.
It's not on trend. You can be trendy and cheap in Ikea. But yeah, I've moved house with Ikea bits, and they even just fall apart looking at them. I had these metal cabinets, which I love the styling of, but every time you open the door, they want it to fall off. And I've got tools, so I drilled some holes and riveted on some hinges and did things, but you shouldn't have to do that to a bit of furniture.
No, I quite like going to Ikea still, though. I enjoy looking around, and I enjoy the meatballs and the...
Yeah, I enjoyed my meatballs.
What is the sauce? Lindenberry or something?
Yeah. And I spent £12.
Yeah? What did you buy?
I bought some little metal buckets that I'm going to use. I think I'm going to punch a hole in them and whack a screw in and put them on the wall to dump things in.
Nice.
And I wanted some greenery for the workshop. I can see you've got a houseplant behind you.
Yeah.
It's never something I've done. I'm very much treating this more as a studio than a workshop. I'm sat in here now for the audience. I'm sat in a nice, comfy armchair. I want this to be a comfy, nice place. So I bought an ivy, like a trailing ivy.
Yeah.
And next week I'm going to make a shelf that goes above the windows. I'm going to have the ivy coming down. That's the idea. I don't know. I want a space that I want to be in and inspires me. And I think particularly after the last year of being in the tent, because that was not a space I wanted to be in and it didn't inspire me.
Yeah. And speaking of inspiring, walking around Ikea itself is quite inspiring, I think.
Oh, absolutely. The designs are good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they employ the best designers in cutting edge facilities and come up with some really interesting ideas. Saying that, there's nothing I went away with thinking I'm going to make that.
Yeah.
And I was looking at coffee tables because, as I say, I'm sat in the workshop now, and it's quite complicated, our podcasting setup, as in we have computers and microphones and cameras, and I don't know if lighting. Do you have any special lighting?
Yeah, I've got 2 lights set up at the moment.
Yeah. See, I can't see what you've got and you can't see what I've got, but it's a big thing. So I was thinking of some kind of coffee table with storage under it that held all the podcasting stuff, and then I just get it all out. So I was looking for inspiration in there, but there was nothing that... Well, strangely enough, they don't sell a podcasting coffee table. It's a gap in the market.
Do they have a ring light, though? Because one of the lights I'm using is one of those ones that, like, the makeup people use.
Yeah. I didn't actually look at lighting, and lighting it fascinates me. If I could specialise in anything, if I had to make one item for the rest of my life, it'd be lighting.
Yeah?
And I don't think I've done many videos about lighting. And maybe I've done no videos about lighting.
I can only think of one, which was not the fairy lights, whatever they're called, the string lights.
Oh, yeah, that wasn't even me making lights. That was just buying them. But I have made a lot of lamps.
Really?
And never filmed it.
Oh.
I think I'm always nervous because of electrics.
Yeah.
I don't like showing electrics. All for the last workshop, I bought Ikea lights that I really liked, kind of spotlights to screw on, and I had nothing but problems with all of them. Just the bulbs wouldn't, the connections didn't work, and it's a light. It's very basic what it's got to do, and none of them worked. My sister spent like 250 quid. She bought this fake decking. It's like plastic tiles that snap together, because she's got a patio, but it's not trendy, obviously. So it's grey decking tiles that go on it. And I was like, I'll build you a deck. If it's just to go on top of a existing hard surface, a deck is like probably half a day's work. I mean, it's incredibly simple. Most of the work is actually getting a hard surface to build it on.
Yeah.
But no, she bought this, so it's fine. It was mainly just a day out. A bit of inspiration, because the kitchens, I want to do my kitchen, and there's some really nice kitchen islands, or nice looking kitchen islands, and then you touch them and they wobble.
Yeah.
So it's I like the idea of a kitchen island, which I know you built recently.
Yeah, and I've still got, unfortunately. Did I tell you about that problem?
No. Oh, tell me about it after I finish my my monologue. Everyone's shouting, "Hurry up, Matt!" Anyway, they had it was metal, the island, bits that go up from the sides, and so it has a shelf above it.
Right.
And I like the idea of storage above it. And actually, I thought it had lights in the shelf above it, like spotlights, which would have been really nice. But they just had spotlights on the ceiling shining down. So when you look at it from afar, it looks like it's lit up. It's like, oh yeah, incorporating lighting into the island would be really nice.
So if it's got a shelf above it, does that mean it's the sort of thing that can be pushed up against a wall?
No, the shelf is centralised to the top.
Yeah.
It's a stylish thing. It looks like a butcher's block top, but it is just fake plastic that you tap and is hollow. But looking at it, like, if I saw it in a magazine, like, I really like the styling of that.
Yeah.
But just rubbish in real life.
Yeah, so I did the video, and at the end of the video, I did the whole, if you're interested in buying it, it's available, so I'll stick it on eBay and feel free to bid. I always knew that the kitchen island was going to be a difficult sell, partly because I painted it in a particular colour, which was leftover paint that I wanted to use up. And it's like, how, what are the chances of someone liking this kitchen island, having space for the kitchen island, and actually liking the colour of it? So it was always going to be a little bit of a hard sell, but I didn't expect it to be quite this difficult. I think it went up to like £200. And I was thinking, well, I was expecting $750-ish.
I mean, does that even cover the cost of material?
No. But anyway, I thought, well, that's fair enough. It's sold for that amount. So I got in touch with the buyer. He basically said, oh, I'm really sorry. I've had a chat with my wife. She no longer wants to go for it. So it's like, oh, okay. So I offered it to the next bidder down, which is, I don't know, 160 maybe. Never heard back. It's like, right, so I'm stuck with an island now. So listed it on Facebook Marketplace, 500 quid. I thought, well, that's a fair price, surely. Because, I mean, I spent almost 4 days on that. But yeah, it's just funny because you get comments from people on YouTube sometimes saying, I think you undervalue your work. And it's like, well, yeah, I kind of do in a way, but that's because things don't sell.
No.
But yeah, this thing is now in the corner of my office. I got an offer the other day from a chap on Facebook Marketplace for it, but he said, I can do like £400 or something. And I said, that's fine, I can drop it off to you, but then I never heard back from him either. So it's just like, yeah, it's just a pain. It's weird, isn't it? Because you make these things and then they kind of sit in the corner of your room, and then you kind of start feeling a bit resentful about it. And it's like, it's taken up space. I just want to get rid of it now. It's starting to annoy me. Yeah, it's the problem of making things that you don't necessarily need, is that they then dwell around the house for ages.
I was thinking of doing the same thing. I think it was before I moved. I kind of came to the realisation there's lots of things I want to make, but I don't want. It's like, oh, well, why don't I just make them? And even if I sell them just for the cost, that justifies the video. But it is so hard to sell things. I mean, maybe we're just terrible at making things and no one wants to buy them.
Well, going back to Ikea as well, you look at the pricings of the kitchen islands on there that are surely less solidly built than what I've made. I mean, what I made isn't particularly high-end or anything. It wasn't like I was making fine furniture. I wanted to make something that looked nice, that other people could make themselves. But the Ikea ones fetch, a good chunk of money, and it's like, I don't know.
It's hard to sell things like that online because it's hard to get an idea of the quality and the scale in a picture, isn't it?
That's true, yeah.
If you had the Ikea one and your one next to each other and people would actually fill them, it'd be like, oh, yours is an absolute bargain.
I think if I was selling an Ikea island, I would sell it much more quickly, unfortunately.
Well, as long as you recoup your money, then it's you got a video out of it.
If not, it's going to go on the burn pile at the top of the garden.
Don't say that.
What have you been up to project-wise?
Workshop. I think the time this goes out, we'll be on the final video that week of kitting out the interior. Last video was doing the door. And then I'm just filming this week, kind of finishing touches. Putting some trim around the windows, guttering on, acoustic panels, and that's it.
Yeah, I saw your video on the door yesterday and really liked it. But one of the comments made me laugh, of someone saying, "Oh, diagonal brace would really help on that door." And I couldn't help but comment on it, saying, "How is it going to sag? It's got plywood on one face, MDF on the other. How could it possibly sag?"
It's the same comment. I think they said that the MDF was doing all the work.
Did he watch the video?
Yeah, like not the recessed bit of plywood in it. I mean, that's the one that's doing the bracing. And so many people pointed out the continuity error of like the cladding.
Yeah.
But
you explained that in the video.
I explained that, so it's clearly everyone switches off before I get to the explaining. Door one was one of my longest videos ever. I think it's like 18 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I think the internal one is going to be the same. And then I've just done this finishing up one. It's well over 10 minutes. And like, I'm enjoying the longer videos, actually, when I used to try and do it very short and snappy. And that's not a conscious decision. This is a problem I have, which I think maybe you have as well, that I don't explain this thing because I've been doing it 5 years, and to me it just seems so obvious, the thing I'm doing.
Yeah, it's so difficult to decide what to include and what not to.
Yeah. Subscribers and watchers from all different skill levels. Someone said, though, mirrored film on the windows.
Yeah, I've done that in my workshop.
Is it easy to do and works well?
It's easy to do, although I did have a few bubbles in mine that I couldn't quite squeegee out.
I'm not super fussy. Does it block out much light?
It doesn't block out much light at all. The downside is, so the way this film works, during the day it's reflective. At night, if you have the lights on inside, you can see in from the outside.
Okay.
So I think there's a reflective film that works well at night and one that works well in the day. So you have to kind of make a decision on which to go with.
Well, I guess I'm never going to be in there at night with the lights on. So, yeah, daytime's the thing, because at night time you won't be able to see anyway, I guess.
See, I often go out in the middle of the night and do stuff.
Really?
Just quiet stuff.
I would happily put blinds inside at night, but during the day, obviously I want the windows unblocked. And I was thinking of making shutters, well, not shutters, I was thinking of making frames that fit in the window recess on the inside with acoustic insulation in.
Yeah.
So if you was doing something really noisy, you could kind of block the windows up, because obviously a weak point. But actually, I don't think I'm that fussed now.
Also, something else you've got to store, isn't it, I guess?
Yeah, something else you've got to store.
Yeah.
I was thinking of shutters that go over the window on the inside, and they've got tool holders on the back that would look cool, but no, I don't. The film's good, and I think also the film does two things. It stops people looking in, but if you try and smash the window, then the windows don't smash either when they've got film on. Do you put it on the inside or the outside?
On the inside.
I imagine it's cheap stuff, isn't it?
Yes, it's peanuts, yeah.
Peanuts. So I think that's a kind of, even if I decide I hate it, what do? Get the heat gun out and peel it off again?
Yeah, well, while it's still wet, you can peel it off straight away if you wanted
Yeah.
to. I would say buy more than you think you'll need, just
Yeah.
because you might mess it up. I don't know. I think I applied it twice or something like that and got a decent result after that. The trick is to douse it in loads and loads of water first, like soapy water, and then stick it on and squeegee it, working from the inside out. What I did, I think, on the first one was it was slightly too big and it had a kind of lip, and it was really annoying me. And you'd think, oh, I could just run down with a knife blade, but it doesn't cut very well.
Oh.
So it was a bit of a faff, but yeah.
No, I think I'm sold on that. I'm going to do that, and that'll stop people looking in. So yeah, I've just been doing the workshop. Then I went away to London for a few days, met up with some weirdos in some pubs. Then I went to my mum and built a log store, which I filmed, so that'll be a video coming up.
You have been busy.
What have you been up to?
Like yourself, a few days in London with another 12 weirdos. It was 12, wasn't it, I think, in total?
I can't count past 10.
Although Robin Clevitt joined us in the evening as well, so maybe 13 in total. But yeah, it's a really good meet-up. To be honest, most of it's probably boring to most people. It's like tax and things like that.
It was boring to me.
I saw you dozing off a couple of times.
No, there was some really useful stuff, but a lot of the admin stuff, it is... It's dull for everyone. It's important but dull.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Important but dull. But just being able to share knowledge on stuff like that is invaluable. But, you know, there was some talk about some more interesting things that might lead to events, possibly. It all sounds quite exciting. And it's just a good bunch of people that are trying to level up together rather than compete with each other, which I think is always cool.
Yes, no, it's a really nice group. And if you follow Keith or I on Instagram, you have seen who we're talking about. I'm not going to embarrass myself by saying who was there because I probably can't remember 12 people.
So how did the log store go?
It was good. So left over from the Gone Room build was a pile of feather edge cladding and some bits of timber. There was a pallet, and I just shoved it all on a pallet down the side and went... they said they wanted a log store, so I said, I'll save all this stuff and build a log store. And that's a year's gone by, and... It's not just a log store, it's got a bit for the wheelie bins as well.
Nice.
So it used up all those bits, and I actually made a couple of bonusy little bits. I'd said about making a parcel box for the front door. One of those ones is like I think we've talked about this, like a night safe on a bank that you put your parcel in and it drops down so you can put it in but you can't get it out again. But she's in the middle of nowhere in this little village where no one locks their doors. So what she wants more is just something covered and obvious for someone to leave something rather than secure.
Yeah.
So I made like a little mini log store for parcels to go in and another one to go actually by the patio doors. So if you have that scenario where you've actually run out of logs in the evening, you can literally just reach outside the door without going outside. But it was just nice working outside for a few days in nice weather.
Yeah, it has been quite good.
We had some rain actually, but it wasn't cold as doing my workshop that I was miserable at times because it was so cold.
Yeah.
As it felt spring-like doing garden projects is nice.
Been working on a bin, making a kitchen bin, which sounds a bit strange, but we've got an issue in that Mickey the cat, who is incredibly obsessive and compulsive when it comes to food. Honestly, he's like a cat possessed when he's got food on the brain. The other day he managed to get through the cat flap that was locked.
Wow.
He's found a weak corner in the flap of the cat flap where he knows that if he pushes it hard enough, it will flex enough to unlock. So now we've been locking him in the utility room when we make dinner, just because if you turn your back for 1 second and he's running off with your sausage or whatever. So I've had to make a latch to go over the cat flap now that he can't get through. Yeah, so been making a bin which is cat proof, because another problem is that he keeps getting in the bin, and we've tried so many different things now to keep him out of the bin and none of them worked. So I needed a bin solution, and that worked out really well, although I did struggle with it a bit because things that move I've always struggled with for some reason. I'm not great at things like that, so I made quite a few mistakes on that one, but it came together in the end. This week I've mostly been working on resolving table saw issues, because the whole process of getting the lumberjack in and trying that out has made me realise that some of the problems I had I just can't live with anymore. So spent some time on that. I don't know about you, but workshop things that don't actually result in projects are always the things that I never even think to do. Sometimes if you focus on these things and actually make some improvements, it's like, this is going to save me a lot of time and effort, and it's just going to make everything a lot easier and more satisfactory. I'm putting a video together as well about how I decided on which saw to keep. I really went into detail and did like a point scoring system on all of the advantages and disadvantages, and you'll see how ridiculously close it came out in the video.
Yeah, the fact that you're comparing it to a saw that's from a much more established brand and was list prices significantly more expensive, and it's coming out almost equal, I think they're going to love, aren't they?
Yeah, they certainly seem chuffed about it.
Hello, Matt here. It takes us quite a lot of time to prepare and produce each episode of this podcast, and we'd like to keep putting it out for free. If you enjoy the podcast and you'd like to help, support and shape future episodes, you can find a link to our Patreon page in the show notes, or just search online for Workshop Banter Patreon. Thank you, and now back to the podcast.
Oh, I bought myself a new tool. See, that's a Freudian slip. I bought myself a new tool, not toy, an impact driver.
Okay, Bosch.
Yes, but I think I'd said on the podcast, I tried to buy two before the workshop build, and Toolstation then emailed me going, it's out of stock, and I ordered it off Amazon, and there's something going wrong with my card. I don't think there was, it's just their payment system was not working. And so I bought another one to do the log store, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And I get the comment almost on a daily basis, you need an impact driver. And I had one before, but it was a DeWalt 12 volt one, and then it broke, and I fixed it, but then I got the 18 volt drill, and I found the 18 volt drill was as powerful for driving in big things as the impact driver, but so much quieter.
Yeah.
But now this 18 volt impact driver, for putting big screws into things, is like, yeah, that's great. I tried to take some screws out of something yesterday, and I didn't have my ear defenders on. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's why I hate them.
It's loud.
It's loud. The fact that I've got to wear ear defenders for putting a screw in is annoying. But for construction, it's great.
Yeah. Does it have the different power settings?
No, I don't think so. It's just...
Because that's one of the things I like about the one that I use, is that it's got like 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And when you put it on one, you can literally drive in tiny little screws in woodworking projects and just use it as a driver. Sometimes the hammer doesn't even kick in.
Right.
Whereas you can put it on 3 and drive in a God knows how long thick screw into timber without a pilot hole, and that versatility of it I really, really like.
You can finesse it quite a lot with the trigger, I feel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But I probably won't use it that much in the workshop. For putting 20mm screws into something, I will use...
don't need it. Yeah.
I use the drill. But watching back my workshop build, the amount of times I've been holding the drill and it's skipping on the screw.
Yeah.
And the impact driver just... The whole of the the log store, doesn't skip on a screw once, because it works in a different way. Like, yeah, it does do a good job of putting screws in, but it's loud. Mine's not got fancy features, because I bought the cheapest Bosch one really available. I think I paid, it was an Amazon warehouse deal, I got it for £90 with the L box.
Yeah.
And the L boxes, even though I'm more workshop based, I still like them storing for bits you don't use that often.
Yeah.
They're good for batteries and chargers and things, and when I go away, they are great for being able to take your tools.
Yeah.
You got anything new?
A couple of things that are kind of more accessory focused, table saw stuff that I should have shortly, which I'm hoping to include within that table saw video. But other than that, yeah, nothing new.
I got some new clamps, which worked out well. Actually, they got delivered to my mum's while I was there, because she's got a couple of chairs that just the spindles have popped off.
Oh yeah.
Not a big job, but I need a clamp that's got don't know, 400mm reach. So I got some new ones. They came the day I was going home, so I just left a couple there.
Yeah.
It's one of those tools that householders don't have long clamps. It's not a DIY thing.
Yeah. Are they spring clamps or F clamps?
These are the Pony Jordanson ones. I ordered ones that I'd never seen before. They're screw clamps, and they've got the Acme screw, which is the much thicker screw. The time you get on like cast iron F clamps, and these are all metal. And I liked the idea that you could weld with them, but there's just nothing to go wrong, because you always lose the rubber pads and the plastic bit breaks. But they also sent me, which I didn't ask for, some small ratcheting clamps, which are like, I didn't even know they do these. These are really sexy. I don't know that anything that's ratcheting, it's just such joy to play with. In the workshop, again, there's very rare that I think quick clamps are the best option, because you don't get the clamping pressure you would with other things.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing things like the construction, when you're up a ladder and you want to clamp something, being able to have that one-handed operation, I absolutely love the quick clamps for that. I've moved away completely from my Bessie ones now.
Yeah.
Parallel clamps are one of those things I feel, for me, that they're so hyped, these are the clamps you should have.
Yeah.
And I think for the big Bessie ones, you can pay like 60 quid plus a clamp.
Yeah.
And like, oh no, I just want something that screws. I think it's also the work you do. I think if you're gluing up a lot of panels, like you've obviously made kitchen worktoppy type tops out of wood, I think they're good for that.
Yeah, I that's the only time I really use them is when I'm gluing up large tabletops or panels.
But it's not something I do very often, so I'm not going to have a clamp that's really good for that, but not so great for other things.
Yeah.
Because I can make do with F clamps, can do everything, I feel.
They can.
And they're the cheapest to buy.
Which is, it's rare in woodworking.
And it also feels like less can go wrong with them other than, like you say, the plastic pads going missing.
Yeah, I had, I think they're called sash clamps, those aluminium ones. Yeah. They were really cheap. But as soon as you tighten them, you bend the aluminium, I found.
I hated those clamps. Oh. Couldn't stand them. I'm pretty sure it was Paul Sellers that recommended them.
Really?
Yeah, so I got them, and he suggested as well a couple of upgrades to them, like filling the aluminium bar with a piece of pine. And I did that. But they're so janky, is that the word?
Yeah.
They're like, the turning part on it doesn't work on one of the ones that I've got. They're supposed to be good value for money, but I just think they're crap.
Yeah, I think they're false economy, because they're not that much cheaper. Again, they work a bit like parallel clamps, that they're good for gluing panels because you can rest the wood on the clamp itself. But no, I don't, as soon as you try and put any pressure on, it kind of rips the bar itself, I found. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I have bought, actually, that hasn't arrived yet, is another Japanese pull saw. It's one of the Ryoba types, so the one kind of almost triangular shaped. I've got one, but I've found that it's just not cutting well anymore, and I thought about buying a replacement blade for it. But then I realised that the reason it probably wasn't cutting well anymore is because I've been using it a lot for flush trimming when there's glue squeeze out, and then obviously it gets all of the crusty glue on it, and it's just never going to cut the same. And I've tried cleaning it up and sanding the sides of it, but then of course the set of the teeth isn't quite right, so it binds when you're cutting. So I probably need one of those saw set things to angle the teeth out a bit more. But then I saw the price of them and I thought, well, why don't I just buy another one, and then I can use my crusty one for flush trimming dowels and getting covered in glue, and use my good one for when I actually want to saw things. But I saw your video of when you cut that threshold on the door. You've got the one with I don't know what the name of them is. Similar handle, but they're kind of curved at the end.
Yeah, it's got the kind of a bit of a back spline to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a little tiny one, which is very fine, which I loved. This is kind of a bigger version of that. Yeah, I think it's really just for cross-cutting.
It is a pull saw, isn't it?
It is, oh yeah, it's a pull saw.
Yeah.
But I'm going to buy one like you've got, the Ryoba, because I had the Irwin one for years, and it lost teeth, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Because also I'd like one of the little tiny Japanese flush cut ones, the ones that have fine tooth blade that's very small and you can almost fold it in half. It's so flexible.
Yeah.
Yeah, people might correct me. I don't think you'll be able to reset the teeth on a Japanese saw. Because I think they're hardened teeth. So I've reset saws and I had the setting tool. I don't know if I've got one anymore. You put it on a hard surface and hammer all the teeth flat and then reset them. Because they're hardened, I think if you tried to hammer them flat, they'd just snap off.
Really?
I think that the Japanese saws, I think, are disposable, so you can't resharpen, you can't reset. You might be able to bend them back a little, but yeah, if you've got a spare one, you can have a go, but I don't think you will be able to.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, it's not something I'd looked into.
Yeah, I love Japanese pool saws.
I like them, but I still struggle to decide whether I prefer them to a traditional...
A Western saw.
A Western saw, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't particularly love using either.
Okay.
But I find a pull saw is better for more refined things.
I have tried a Japanese hand plane. I find... Well, actually, all hand planes I find there's a real learning curve on. You could teach someone how to saw in seconds, couldn't you? If someone could, even if you don't even need to teach them, if someone could pick up a saw and use it, I feel hand planes are not like that.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what people do with Japanese hand planes, but the fact that you have to use a hammer to kind of set the blade rather than just turn a wheel just seems...
counterproductive.
Yeah.
Where did you get to try one of those?
I think probably at a woodworking show.
Okay.
There was people, they're doing the amazing long wafer thin.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like, I find the dovetail people, that all their woodworking seems to be just cutting the perfect dovetail.
Yeah.
And then there's the people that all their woodworking seems to be is creating the perfect shaving on a hand plane.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, but like, do you ever make anything?
I've got a couple of tenon saws as well. You know, the ones with the brass rib.
Yeah.
They both came from my granddad when my granddad passed away. They cut so well that I don't know how they are still working so well. I've used them a fair bit for the last 7 years, and God knows how long my granddad had them before that. But yeah, they just seem to be really reliable for some reason.
And they are beautiful things.
They are, yeah.
I bought a brand new Spear & Jackson one. That's nice. It's got the brown wood handle and the brass back. I think Paul Sellers actually recommends them. But I found the set on it to be really quite aggressive.
Yeah.
As in the splay of the teeth. If you're doing a cross cut, I think it takes up about a mil of wood. As a Japanese, probably is half that.
Yeah.
I got them, and I don't think I've really used them in a year. And I pick up the Japanese ones, and you find that with tools, don't you? There's things you reach for all the time. I've got some specialist tools, like I've got tap resetting tools, and I've got ones for cutting 15mm plastic plumbing pipes. And okay, I don't reach for them, but if I ever need to do that again, it'd be really useful. But with the saws, do I need 6 different types of hand saw? I really don't.
Depends if they look nice on the wall or not, though.
Yeah, I only have so much wall in here, so I think I need to downsize.
Have you actually got what you're watching?
One of the ones I've got, I'm wondering if you'll have it as well.
Oh, does it involve a sliding table saw?
It doesn't.
Oh.
So it's different. The video I wanted to recommend is one by Bradshaw Joinery about making curved skirting boards. I saw the thumbnail and I thought, well, clearly he's just cut loads of curves, bent it around this profile and then filled it with filler or whatever. But no, that's not what he does at all. I won't go into detail because I don't want to spoil the video for anyone who hasn't watched it, but for anyone who's familiar with Ollie, it is Ollie, isn't it? I think it's Ollie.
I don't know, terrible.
I think it's Ollie at Bradshaw Joinery. He does things the right way all of the time, and the way that he does this skirting board is just incredible. And I just watching it thinking, how are you making money on these jobs? Because it must have taken so much time that the end result is just absolutely flawless. So yeah, curved skirting board video by Bradshaw Joinery. Can't remember the name of it specifically, but there'll be a link in the show notes.
Yeah, we've moaned about the trades on this podcast quite a lot, and then you see people like him
Where are all the Ollie at Bradshaw joineries when it comes to plumbing or electrical work? That's
we
what
probably
I want to
can't
know.
afford him, but the standard of his work is amazing. And actually, we're talking about my door video, and I reference him in it because I used his hinge jig.
Yeah.
And I actually tried to buy the Robin Clever one because it's not a huge amount of money, £30 or something. And when you're busy and I don't have a workshop to actually make a jig in, I was like, I'll just buy that because I'd like to support Robin. And he was out of stock, so I was like, oh well, you can't have my money then, Robin. But the hinge jig, I think he's done several videos on it. He just goes through it and explains every last thing. Right, so mine, I'm sure I've talked about him before, and I hate talking about big channels, but Make Something, DIY sliding crosscut table for the table saw. And I can't have one because I haven't got room, but it's absolutely fantastic. I think he costs it all the way through, and I think he spends something like $500. But I've looked on the Axminster website before about their add-on sliding tables for their big saws, and they're like 1,500 quid, I think, or something. And this just looks amazing, but it looks so achievable the way he's shown how to do it. But I can totally see you having something like that in your workshop.
The trouble is where my table saw is positioned, I don't think I'd have enough width to fit long lengths in, if you know what I mean. But it does look cool. But yeah, you're right. It's the sort of solution that you need plenty of space for, isn't it?
Thank you for listening. You can find Keith on YouTube by searching for Rag N Bone Brown and me by searching for Badger Workshop. We have a Patreon page if you'd like to help support us in making future episodes of the podcast. Link to that in the show notes. And we have a Workshop Banter Instagram and Facebook page if you'd like to get in touch, which is @Workshop Banter, all one word.